Powerful Nerdcast assembles!
Stay dandy, baby. I hope you guys are ready for a big fat furry celebration, because that's exactly what you're gonna get in this episode of Gundam Build Divers Re. An episode which decides to pump the brakes a little and take a little bit of a vacation, especially after all of the massive revelations which were revealed at the end of the last episode and at the beginning of this one right here. Yes, May is indeed an EL or an L diver. That's right. All of the big things that happened at the very end of the last season of Gundam Build Divers are having some massive ramifications in this season right here. I didn't like the last season, but my favorite element of it was the EL diver storyline. The fact that Sarah herself was actually kind of a unique, immaculate electronic life form, and apparently a lot more of these life forms have been appearing in the Gundam Battle Nexus. We get to learn that apparently there are 87 distinct individuals, these L divers, which actually exist within the GBN, and May just happens to be one of the 87. In fact, she also happens to have something of a close relationship with a lot of the characters from the last season. There's even a shot of her in the real world interacting with Sarah from the last season, no dialogue at all, just to let us know that yes, these characters still exist, and remarkably, none of them have aged at all. Although it's only been a couple of years, still, it's pretty cool to know that there's going to be a lot more of these L divers in this series, and it's not even the most interesting thing about this episode. I'll get to that in a second. But really, the beginning of this episode was just showing May going into battle with her mobile doll mobile suit, which, predictably, unlike the actual Gundams and Gunpla, is incredibly acrobatic in the way that it can actually fight, and she actually stands a pretty good chance against the Seltsam, who might be some sort of weird individual who goes by the name of, I believe it's pronounced Masaki Shido. The name should sound familiar to me, but honestly, I think it's a complete and utter mystery. I don't know who this guy is, but apparently May is looking for him or has some sort of like affiliation with this character. And again, it's just another interesting plot point, a little bit of a hook that's going to get viewers to continue watching the show. And I really liked that moment. Her mobile doll was incredibly awesome, the way that it flipped around and moved and did backflips and everything. It pretty much outmaneuvered just about every other Gunpla that we've seen from the series, and I really hope that we're going to get to see more of them, especially with the prospect of there being, if you count Sarah as well, at least another 85 of these characters out there. And basically, the Seltsam makes a grand escape by blasting the shit out of the ground, and that's pretty much the end of that battle. This is a really big moment, however, as the team actually learns that May is an L diver, and they really don't make a big deal about it because, well, L divers are kind of a common occurrence in this world now. Little by little, they're being born and created and actually allowed to exist within this world as being their very own people. There's a lot of these electronic life forms in the world, and that alone is pretty freaking cool. However, there is one revelation about this episode which I thought was really interesting and something that I never even brought up in the last episode because, honestly, I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. In the big battle in the last episode, Hiroto actually managed to get his head hurt, where he slammed up against the cockpit in his mobile suit, and he actually had blood coming out of his forehead. Now, originally I thought that this was something that was just sort of created in the GBN to sort of create a sense of realism, but when Hiroto actually went back into the real world, he had a bruise on his head. He was physically damaged by actually being in this world, and that just brings up so many questions now. I mean, can these characters get physically hurt now in this world, or only when they're actually within the story mission? And if that is the case, this just became 10 times more interesting because now we have stakes. These characters are not just playing a video game anymore. They can get physically hurt, emotionally, physically, every single way these characters can be affected. And that just adds so much more drama to the actual series. And then, of course, there's the furry people themselves, the dog and cat and whatever the hell they are, people living in this world who very well might be related to the L divers. They might be an offshoot of them, or they very well might be L divers themselves, where they seem to have gained a form of sentience and quite literally are living beings. That's why these cutscenes, these story parts that Kasumi always complains about, are so incredibly realistic. Because these characters are alive. They have thoughts and emotions and aspirations. They can hate you, they can love you. They're real, fully fleshed out beings. And that alone, again, is just adding this really cool layer of sci-fi to this series that has only been barely tapped upon in some other Gundam anime, and again, is doing something a little different than we've seen from the previous Gundam Build Fighters and Divers series. Something that they touched upon in the last one, now they're fully expanding upon it in this season, and it's got me really excited for the future to see where all of this is eventually going to be headed. The rest of the episode, however, for the most part, is just fluff. It's just the people, the furry people, hanging out with the Build Divers team, having a big celebration, and honoring all of their family and loved ones and those who have passed away. Just like in real life, they even do like the lantern ceremony where they release these lanterns on the water, except that eventually they puff up and they fly in the sky like a balloon, just sort of like an honor moment for their loved ones. And it's a very beautiful and very nice scene, and it's all wrapped up by seeing the characters just sort of relax and enjoy themselves. You even get to see Kazumi bring in a brand new Gunpla, which is a variation on his Justice Gundam. It's a bear guy mixed with the Justice Gundam, and it's known as the Justa guy. It appears very briefly in the episode, but it's hilarious, and it's just kind of mandatory at this point that these Gundam Build spin-off series have to have some form of the bear guy in them. It's just sort of like a signature, so I'm glad that it came back, and it was really funny to see it come back in this form, and how even in that goofy bear mobile suit, he still acts the same, proclaiming the power of justice. But also, Kazumi tends to warm up a lot more to the NPC people in this episode, which I thought was really cool. How even Maya is starting to actually appreciate him, which is strange. And I love that they use their mobile suits to turn them into rides for the kids. Like, they turn one into a swing and one into a slide. Getting to see all the kids have fun is great. And even the character of Stola, who's very much been in the background for most of the series. He's this young teenager who desperately wants to join the resistance, but Jed simply won't let him because he needs to stay behind and protect the people. He has to learn that the hard way. Getting to see him sort of relax and act like the child that he is in this episode was kind of cathartic. It was just a make you feel good kind of episode. Hell, there was even fireworks. Everything just worked in this episode, and it feels kind of like, you know, the little roadblock before we move on to the next part of the series, where things are certainly going to intensify, especially with all of the different storylines we have going on with this evil individual who is trying to take over this NPC world, the concept of there being more L-divers, and of course the biggest revelation, of course, having to do with Hiroto, where we basically get to learn that the girl that he's looking for, they don't say it outright, very well may be an L-diver, and almost certainly is. And in some sort of crazy event, he seems to have lost her, and the circumstances behind that are mysterious, but there's a lot of clues. I mean, there was the one we got in the last episode with the big battle, but we also get the massive revelation in this episode that Hiroto was indeed a member of Team Avalon from the last season, which means he was a part of that force which was going up against the original Build Divers to actually stop Sarah and destroy them so that the entire GBN would not be destroyed, so to speak. And now that he's living in a world with these L-divers who are his teammates, who are potentially his loved ones, he realizes that in the past, he actually attempted to hunt down and destroy these type of people. So you can imagine why that's sort of like affecting him in a very big emotional way. And he even asks May by the end of the episode that if these L-divers disappear, do they die? Do they actually die like someone else? Can they return because they're an electronic life form? And ultimately, Hiroto just became a much better and deeper character. In fact, again, I've said it so many times, but these characters are just so much better than the ones that were in the last season, and it almost makes me wish they would have started with something like this instead. It seemed like the last season was more of a setup for the events which are happening in this one right here. It was one hell of a slow setup, but at least it's finally starting to pay off in a season, which is continuing to be incredibly entertaining, carrying the spirit of Gundam Build, but also managing to do something different all on its own. What I'm basically trying to say is, I liked this episode. So, what's the rundown on this episode of Gundam Build Divers Re? I really, really liked this one. I love seeing how far that the team has actually come. I love the fact that they have an L-diver on the team, and they're totally okay with that, and that's just a common thing in this world. Like I said, it gets me excited to see what sort of other L-divers that we're actually going to see, and it just opens up so much potential, not only for this season, but for even the future of the series. Ultimately, it makes it really interesting, but I mean, there's the Team Avalon revelation, there's the mysterious villain whose name is Masaki, there's the fact that we have characters who can get hurt in this real world. This is an episode where not a lot happened, but everything had a lot of weight behind it, and that's what ultimately made this such a great viewing experience. I'm actually really excited for the rest of this, and I was feeling kind of lukewarm on the series. I mean, it's been entertaining, and I haven't really hated anything, but now I am genuinely super pumped to see what they're actually going to do for the rest of this season. I'm excited for Gundam again, and that's really great. I mean, it's not to say that I hated the previous episodes. I loved the season so far, but now it's really got its hooks in me, and I just cannot wait to see how it's going to evolve just like the rest of the season. I'm still waiting for that more traditional Gundam anime to eventually release, but for now, I'm going to kick back, relax, and enjoy everything that they're presenting to us right now. So yeah, loved this episode. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. Maybe one of my favorite episodes of the series, definitely the most revelatory episode of the series, but you heard my thoughts. I really want to hear from you guys. What did you think about all of the massive revelations in this episode? What did you think of seeing Mei in action with her mobile doll, mobile suit, getting to see some of those old characters from the first season? What about Hiroto being a part of Team Avalon? What about him actually getting hurt in that world? What's truly going on here? What do you want to see from the rest of Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise? Let's just have a discussion all about it in the comments section below. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. The holiday season is coming up. I'm getting really busy. I'm working on a lot of really big projects. I'm planning on doing like a big full comprehensive review of the very first season of Vinland Saga. I've been sitting on this for a while, but I'm also going to be doing a full like final thoughts on the first season of Kimetsu no Yaiba. We also have a lot of other things that are getting ready to come in the pipeline. I'm getting ready to start kicking up the momentum of the channel again. I've been sort of off and on a lot for the last couple of months just because I've been so busy, but I'm really ready to start pouring myself back into the channel and giving you guys a lot of really good content and some videos that I've been working really hard on in the background. I mean, there have been some videos I've been working on in secret, which honestly I maybe only get maybe 2 hours a week to even work on, but trust me, they're going to be really awesome, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, that's it. Thank you all for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.